the papers have come in, but MFA Akosia Adeti, elegance is word. I need to find a word. Maybe the next word for elegance is MFA. Is on the smart world today. Good morning to you, MFA. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kujo. Quite okay. It's one of those mornings.
Hey, quite okay.
Yeah, quite okay.
We'll have to make it fully okay for you.
Because you're a joy giver. I'm glad to be here. Well, good morning to you. So let's bring you what's happening in front of the newspapers. We shall go into it a bit later when our guests join us. We're starting this morning with the BNFT, Business and Financial Times, and biggest story in front of that, which you shall see on page 3 when you get a copy, is BOG to pilot open banking framework. Story is on page 3. And as well, GIPC begins regional investments roadshow in Volta and in OT. Those are neighboring regions, of course. We had a conversation with them on the show last week and they gave us a breakdown. But if you're interested in this roadshow, you should go and see it on page 3 of the BNFT this morning. Another good story is on oil and gas, ex-Flocco confident of 2026, the Voltaire basic drilling target. Story is on page 2 of the BNFT this morning. I shall go to another newspaper and bring you some update on that. Let's see. Good. The back of the BNFT, Energy Minister reiterates backing for Petroleum Hub project. We had a conversation with the Petroleum Hub project CEO right here on the show, and he's been giving us a breakdown on how some investors are showing some interest in this particular project. But to get an update again, grab a copy of the BNFT this morning, and behind this, there's some details on that project. We can ask, oh wow, so CD at 60 celebration, it's behind the BNFT. We shall bring that to you when we take a seat. But the Ghanaian publisher this morning says that Bawumia sparks delegate excitement. Story is on page 3 of the Ghanaian publisher. I like to think this is on the backdrop of his campaign, constituency-wide. If you want the story, it's on page 3 of the Ghanaian publisher this morning as well. Bawumia mourns with Obeng Meno. Story is on page 2. But this one that has my attention is Defense Minister appointments. Intim Fojo slams Mahama's indecision. And the story is on page 3 of the Ghanaian publisher. And of course, Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, number 3. That's quite an advert over there on the Ghanaian publisher over there. Maybe behind the Ghanaian. Good. Let's go to the Daily Graphic, Kojo. And poverty among Ghanaian pensioners is high. This is not a good story. As poverty among Ghanaian pensioners is high. Story is on page 11. And also champion of the girl child. By now, you know, last week we started mourning the passing of Ghana's long-serving First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, and her lasting legacy is on page 11 of the Daily Graphic this morning. You can take a read, and they've been telling us how she's a champion of the girl child here. And also, tension mounts at PASA SHTS as parents, students protest 4,300. What? Help me with that. 435,000. Yeah, I'm numbers phobia. But no money though. I can count money. Right. So 435,000
Ghana cedis.
Thank you so much. Unapproved fees. It's on the Daily Graphic this morning. It was quite a read when I went through that. Kujo says that tension is swelling up at Pasa Senior High Technical School, located in the Nkwanta North District in the OT region, over unauthorized fines imposed on students. The headmaster of the school, Ruskin Kwame Teria, is alleged to have asked the students to pay that amount of money, but that's
I'm told he's imposed the 150 cedis on each of the over 2,900 students.
Yeah, which is
for the payment of some loss of items.
Oh, then well, that's a fine. That's a form of punishment.
It's a fine, yeah.
That's a fine. So really, that shouldn't be a debate, should it?
I'm sure the money will still go into the school and its development. So maybe.
But if you break it, fix it. Yes. It's a rule of life, right?
Well, maybe there was a mob action, or he can't point to who destroyed it, and therefore
so all of us,
all of you pay.
Teamwork, yes. teamwork. Okay, maybe I'll take you to the back of the. Well, okay, another story that says that the use of Ghanaian languages in our schools, but the back of the Daily Graphic this morning is on sport. I'll stay here. Use local language for instruction at basic school. Yeah. Story is on page 44.
You know, it used to be that we use the local language from kindergarten all the way to basic 3. And I think from basic 4, it then turns to English. But now the instruction is that use local language throughout the basic education level. What
local language would this be? Are we still going to be sticking to the same principle of where you come from, your community?
Yes. So the language, so for example, where you attended school, I'm sure you use your language.
Yes, of course.
Those in Nzema will use Nzema. Now we've been able to also add a hunter to the languages that you can learn. So I'm sure when you go to a hunter, for example, it will be a hunter language.
There were some challenges of the fact that if a person comes to a particular community, it doesn't mean that they are of that ethnic group, right? They are of that ethnic group, so they can be able to. But I'll go to the next paper, not the daily graphic this morning. We're done with the daily graphic. Take it to the next paper. Right, the insights this morning, Jobs for All, our vision, the Vice President assures diaspora of government's initiatives. And as well, Mahama unveils free tertiary education for persons living with disabilities. We've been seeing that story as well, and says that the initiative is an act of justice and equality. You want to take a read? It's on the Insight this morning as well. And let me see another story that has our attention. Ghana must fully embrace AI for rapid development, says Archbishop John Adonting Boateng. That story as well is on page 5 of the Insight. And the story already brought you about GIPC beginning regional investments roadshow in Volta and Oti regions as well, has found an expression in the Insight this morning. Next paper will take you quickly. Today it says that ensure the use of mother tongue in schools nationwide. The Minister for Education is the one who's been speaking and telling the Ghana Education Service. And as well, good news for persons living with disability. Story is on page 3 as government moves to amend the Disability Act to include healthcare, rehabilitation and employment opportunities. That's it over there. Now, as well, lawyer renews PPP's call for Attorney General's Department to be separated from Justice Ministry for effective corruption fight. Story, quite an interesting read, is on page 2 of the Today newspaper. I guess that will be all. If I have more newspapers, I'll just run you through quickly as well. Okay, I'll take you to, of course, the
CIMG news portal of the year 2024.
And I, our favorite news portal. And of course, yesterday was the final day for the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, and vendors were quite excited. You as well, who came there, you are quite excited. But you can go back and see what you've been missing. EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair ends in grand style, marks another milestone in housing innovation. Take a read on that. That's our definitely top story. And as well on the portal, Finance Minister Ato Forson expected to present the 2026 budget on November 13. We all look forward to that. And as well, FABAC blames high import duty for smuggling surge draining Ghana's economy. You can as well look into that. And they as well accusing criminal networks bleeding Ghana dry as smuggle as well surges. This is particularly fabric and as well oil. The last time when we had a conversation on the show here. This is how I just might be wrapping the news portal. I just will bring you back one newspaper. Let's see. Okay. Discover newspaper. Government bans long hair in SHS. Yes. Kojo, this is a story that definitely will be on our table, on our desk this morning to discuss. Government bans long hair in SHS. Of course, you've seen that viral video of that just gorgeous young lady going to school and had to get her hair cut, and it sparked a lot of debate, which we shall also be discussing as well. And this one as well, free speech under threat, as Kojo Pong Kroma, alarm over new Cybersecurity Act. There is this alleged bill or draft bill out there that seems to suggest that it wants to regulate online speech. And so he thinks that this is one of government's tools to want to regulate freedom of speech, which would then bring the country backwards out of the progress that we've made so far. We'll discuss that one as well. But Bamia's grassroots welfare policy campaign shakes a huffle. That'll be all for the headlines of the newspapers this morning, Kojo.
Okay, there's one story there, but I'll shoot over it.
Oh, it's a very important story. Of course. Yes. Ghanaian youth choose, oh my goodness, Ghanaian youth choose raw sex over condom.
You can say unprotected sex.
Okay, because, you know, we reported...
Okay, as it is. I get it.
Yeah. I'm very professional at my job.
Yeah.
So Ghanaian youth choose raw sex, but of course they could have done better with that word, right? Yeah, unprotected sex over condom. Ghana AIDS Commission has been reporting that. Are you all not afraid for your lives?
Yeah, well.
You can do better with your lives. You shouldn't risk it that way.
Adventurous.
All right, tell me about it. Okay, that'll be all for the headlines.
Thank you very much. MFA Kusiadati on the smart well. Well, she would now take a seat so we can begin our conversation here on the news review segment of the show. Remember to go on to our social media handles and leave your comment there so that we can, deal with that. But let's bring you in studio and welcome our guest. Dr. Kabiru Mahama is is a member of Parliament and a former aide to former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He was an advisor in that particular office. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Trust all is well.
Yeah.
Constituency good?
Constituency is doing well.
Okay. All right. And then we have Victoria Bright. She is a corporate lawyer and an entrepreneur. Okay. Lawyer, good morning.
Morning.
It's been some time, oh.
It has.
Why?
I've been traveling a bit.
Ah.
Yes.
I'll have to apply to be your PA anyway, so we can travel together. All right. Let's get into the papers. But as we do always, we give you a maximum of 2 minutes to tell us your reflections before we delve into the papers. Doc, let me start with you.
Well, also, it's good to be back. It appears to me that since the recess, I've not been here.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were in the constituency, eh?
Yeah, I was in the constituency trying to keep in touch with the people of Wale Wale. We just want to say that we are back, and we are back for the best interests of Ghana. As a member of Parliament, my role is well cut out for me, but I want to use this opportunity again to say thank you to the good people of Wale Wale for that great privilege to serve them as a member of Parliament. But Brace, there are issues coming up in these particular meetings of Parliament. The budget 2026 budget will be presented by the Finance Minister, and basically this session is a budget session. We are looking forward to seeing how the budget will address the needs of the good people of Ghana. That said, we also see that a lot of issues are trending. We will monitor closely to ensure that, together with the media, the official opposition of the government, that is the New Patriotic Party, together with the media, would probably assess and monitor all these developments. And then we would help the government to govern, and we would also oppose sternly so if we find that there are issues that are not in the interest of the good people of Ghana. So I would say we are back. We are back for good, and this is the last lap of the year. We are in almost getting to November. We are ending October this next week, and I'm sure that the President, the Finance Minister will also have to account to us. The good people of Ghana will have to see what the 1 year, how has it been like, whether we are able to deal with our LMC fight, whether we are able to deal with the insecurity, whether we are able to deal with the economic stability. All these are questions that people of Ghana will be asking, and we shall unpack and unveil some of these things as the days go by.
Dr. Kabiru Mahama there. Lawyer Victoria Bright.
Oh, hi. Yes, I am concerned about this thing we're talking about, this unprotected sex with young kids.
Yeah.
It's very, very disturbing because we all know the dangers of doing that, and I'm surprised that in 2025 we seem to be regressing in that regard. I was actually speaking to a couple of young people over the weekend, and they were saying that it's actually very, very common. And that if they know someone, if you know each other or you're in the same friend group or whatever, then it's considered okay. But, STDs are not written in people's faces. So maybe we need a bit more education on that. I'm also concerned about the rise of sex trafficking and kidnapping in our country. It's something that has slowly been creeping up, and it seems to really be becoming a big problem to the extent that it's not just a Ghana-centric problem anymore. It's in the neighboring countries, and I know there have been instances where Interpol have actually worked together with, in one instance, the government of Ivory Coast, together with our security forces to actually free some of these people. And I was reading about an 18-year-old kid who was lured from a Senegalese goalkeeper.
Yes.
Who was lured,
unfortunately,
by someone pretending to be a scout, and they demanded ransom. Their parents could not afford it, and they actually killed this little kid. So I think we need to start taking it seriously, and or more seriously, I should say, and do something about it, because this is all human capital. And, it's not the kind of thing we want here.
It was a sad story, really.
Yes.
When I read about that story and the fact that
the 18-year-old,
yes, that they even lured him into the country, Ghana,
from his country,
and we did that here. I was like, "Ish,
yes,
I've not heard this, but this is quite."
Yes.
I think this is the first time I'm hearing that we've lured someone from another African country, and some people here in Ghana have killed him. Because they couldn't pay a certain ransom.
Yes.
Was really so.
We need to be very, very careful, because we can't afford these things. I mean, security, all these things are very critical to a nation's development. So we cannot afford to have these things.
I agree with you. MF.
Yep. Well, let's maybe start with LHIMS. Because one, our health data, two, accessibility, and the fact that it's quite a conversation that's been brewing in the last years. You recall that some weeks ago or some days ago, a particular station in the hospital around Weija, Agbawe, suffered some challenge with the NHIS portal, because then they said that the system was down. Later, I would realize that it's not that the system was intentionally want to go back to manual, but the operators that manage that portal seem to have a certain impasse with government. Let's talk about it. What's the outlook, knowing that for public-private partnerships, or when government goes into a contract with an individual to provide a certain service for us as a country, looking at this particular case study, tell me your first, maybe I'll come to you, Doc. Tell me your first impression, how we have left it till today, and what it looks like for us tomorrow. Let me hear your first reaction first.
Well, so, I mean, just taking this case as a case study, we do know that the hospital digitization program, or health platform, was introduced in the last government, and the whole essence is to bring health accessibility closer, where data could be shared between or among hospitals, said that when you are referred from, say, TTH, Tamale Teaching Hospital, to Kolebu Teaching Hospital, you do not necessarily need to carry your file. A doctor sitting down in the 37 military hospital, or Kofu Anoche military, hospital, could, access easily and seamlessly the data that the patient should ordinarily be carrying to that particular health service if he or she is referred to that hospital. And it was actually meant to also, reduce the kind of problem we have, because once data is stored manually and the physical files are being kept at a registry, it's difficult to trace files of patients, and sometimes these unnecessary delays also cause unnecessary loss of lives, because if the doctor needs to get the data of the patient in order to do the prognosis and diagnosis and possibly prescribe what could be given the patient to ensure speedy recovery, the lack of fairness, the lack of the alacrity with which they will respond will be greatly inhibited if the data is stored manually. So that's the whole essence. But in the delivery of this particular life-changing intervention, we have to deal with service providers, because individuals or people with expertise, people with ICT solutions, are those expected to provide this. So if government is not, does not honor in time the obligation expected of government, because they are supposed to be paid for their services, you realize that this problem will occur. Again, we also have situation where these service providers, probably because of lack of investment over time, their equipment or softwares becomes obsolete. And once they do become obsolete, it's difficult for them to match up with time and also to be able to. So you realize that the blackout that we experience in amounts of hospitals as a result of the fact that some of them complain they are not being honored, some of them have, and if you are not even being paid, it means that you also have a situation of you are not able to invest adequately to ensure that your systems, your softwares are up to date in order to cater for the needs of the people. So basically, I would think that it's much more of the service provider angle, making sure that you have up-to-date data or software to be able to manage the system well. And it's not just the health sector. We're having similar problem with even our payment system. We talk of gift mix where people are not using it. Sometimes they are using it, the infrastructure alone that was invested. It's like we've not done anything about that particular infrastructure or backbone on which these systems are going to be operated. So I think that that part of the service provider will have to look. Also part of government, honoring its obligation when they fall due, especially making prompt or being prompt with payments. If the service providers present an invoice, I mean, you know that it's a critical national service they are providing, or it's a critical services they are providing to the good people of Ghana. You try to honor that particular obligation timely. There is also the bit about, I mean, that system was linked to the health insurance. And I've always argued that, you see, the problem we are going to face with the health insurance moving forward is that government is starving health insurance of the resources by the introduction of what we call the Mahama Care. The Mahama Care comes in to take resources that was originally meant for health insurance. But we do know also that, you know, health insurance was already having problems. That's why the fact that, I mean, all resources, 100% was to be given to the health insurance for the management of, for the provision of health services and for subsidizing the health needs of the people, or for providing insurance cover, for health insurance cover for Ghanaians. But now that we have the medical trust fund, which is President Mahama Care, that is drawing from the health insurance. Now they are going to use it to treat certain diseases that were not previously covered under the health insurance. Basically, those sicknesses come with huge capital requirement, or for huge requirement by way of the process. For instance, if you are going to do kidney transplant, if you are going to do dialysis, if you are going to do, all those sicknesses or illness, if you lack of a better word, comes with huge capital requirements. So now there's going to be pressure on the little resources that was coming. Of course, government has capped about 10% or 20% of that particular resources now to be that was accruing to the health insurance, now to be going to the Mahama Care. But it also invariably means that the health insurance will then be limited in terms of the resources that will be accrued to it for the purpose of financing the health. So I think that we have to look at it broadly. Either government trying to look at innovative funding sources to cater for health delivery in general, making sure that we provide service, we pay service providers timely so that they can keep their systems updated. And I think that if we don't take this seriously, wrong data, we can have even data jump, that someone's medical history would actually be attributed to another person's medical history because your system is not updated or your system is not well managed. And I think that government will have to be much more, the health minister specifically, will have to be much more proactive and forthright.
Vicky, I'll come to you, but let me just stay with Doc just for a minute.
Sure.
So in 2018, when the government was launching this particular project, I like to think, did they really envisage monopoly and data sovereignty?
Well, so
Did you think the forward-thinking, did they consider?
Yeah, so data sovereignty has been part, especially the data security part, is part of the national laws of the country, that the Data Protection Act makes provision for that. And to that extent, I would believe that any service provider coming to provide service, and doctors, for that matter, also sharing this particular information among themselves, would be within the limits of the law, say that data protection and would be applied. On top of data sovereignty, you are talking about basically the capacity of the Ghanaian people to own the information that is produced, irrespective of the fact that, irrespective of the service provider, i.e. the service provider may be a foreigner.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Ghanaians should still have, the government of Ghana should still have the ability to control, as it were, even keep the data at the end of their service or contract period.
Do you see that? Did you see that in this particular arrangement?
Basically, I mean, it's part of any, I'll be very surprised. I'm not privy to the detail. I'll be very surprised that data sovereignty would not be factored into the contracting, because it's part of the only problem we sometimes have is where the data sits. Okay.
If they're operating on a monopoly system, Lightwave as a company is as far as I'm concerned, was the only person that was managing this particular portal. If they are the only person, whether Ghanaian or not, if it's the only entity that was managing the health data of the country, and we had a breakdown, and you can see that we're back to manual, does that not suggest that there was a breaking chain in the sovereignty? Yeah,
so monopoly of the system is basically not the problem. The problem, for instance, Ghana Health Service manages the data of every Ghanaian. For instance, is that data monopoly? No, because you want to have a central repository where you can easily access data. I think it will be a bit chaotic if different service providers were managing the health data of different people across the country. Okay. It's going to be a bit of more chaos there. My only issue would be, to what extent does government have control over the data? Okay, so that if the data is, say, is stored in the clouds, and government should be able to have, even if they are going to change a service provider, the successful transfer of this data to the new service provider should be seamless. And I think that is the angle that we should be talking about. Okay. We may talk about data storage and also data protection. I'm sure the service provider should, again, and I'll be very scandalized if the service provider do not have such a system that even the data storage and the data backup system would be there. So that even if you are manually moving in the meantime, it doesn't mean that you totally lose your data of the health data of the Ghanaian people. So I think that is the angle.
I'll come to you, Vicky. Could it be a good time to come to you, Vicky? I'm certain that you may have followed this story particularly. While I hear Doc say that, of course, he will be quite scandalized, which I will also be quite scandalized if I find out that we didn't have the country or the government didn't have the sole control over the database. You would see that now because the company says that government owes them. They need to perform certain obligations, then they are not. And we've seen that affect healthcare delivery currently. We've gone back to manual. We've seen hospitals print books. The booklets were when you go to the hospital years ago, they'll take the data and all of that. Unlike now that they'll key it. Do you think that if government had control over the data, they would have to go back to printing books to be able to enable service delivery?
I mean, there are so many different, I guess, unanswered questions related to this whole thing. First of all, just talking about data and data protection generally, there are very strict rules on the protection and management of processing and control, in legal terms, of personal data. And there are even more strict rules legally for what we call sensitive personal data.
Sorry, I don't cut you, but which means that a company cannot intentionally say, I am leaking.
No, you can't. Data. You can't do that. I mean, that is an offense, and the Data Protection Commissioner, I'm sure, would take, whoever does that, they would be severely punished. Sensitive personal data is things like your medical records. So what we're talking about actually is sensitive personal data. So there are very strict rules in dealing with all of these things. And definitely, there would have been in the agreement, I mean, I haven't seen the agreement, I don't know any of these people, but a good agreement, which I would like to believe this one is, should have a very detailed section, because it's dealing with sensitive personal data, on how to capture, store, and manage that data. So there shouldn't be any problems there. There shouldn't be. If it's been, first of all, if the agreement has been drafted properly, and secondly, if whoever the supervisory authority is, the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, have actually managed it as they should. So that's that about the data. I think we need more transparency in this whole debate, because what I'm not sure of is whether there are two problems. One, they haven't been paid, but then look, most government contractors are in the same position. They are not boycotting this, that, or the other. They are as difficult and as impossible as the situation is. They are trying very hard to keep going. And of course, that is wrong because these are employers. They have responsibilities to their employees, and they also have families, you know. So it's important that all these things are remedied. And I think government is trying to take steps to close these gaps. But we have the gaps across the board, not just in this particular situation. But this is, so that is one problem. The second problem is, my understanding is that they've been presented with an agreement which they believe is unfair and which they believe is not going to help them to sustain. It makes the business sustainable unsustainable rather going forward if they go with that agreement. So we don't know, you know, we don't know what unfair means. If they say financially unfair, I mean, are they being greedy or are they being, you know, are they truly being unfairly treated? We don't know. So for me, there are so many questions which have not been answered. But it is, the job that the system does is very important and critical in the delivery of healthcare. Because if, for example, if you go to the UK, your first port of call is your family doctor or GP. You go with your issue, etc., and then if need be, they refer you to a hospital. If you go to the hospital, they have all your records. Between the GP or your family doctor and the hospital, the records are all there online. And it works, the converse also works, because if you say you're in an emergency situation and you go to a hospital, by the time you next go to your general practitioner, they already can see that on, you know, on the 18th of October, you know, Brace went to A&E, blah, blah, God forbid, blah, 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 you know. And so it's actually a very critical part of service delivery. In an emergency situation, for example, it means your records can be quickly accessed. They can immediately know your profile, who you are, and treat you very quickly. So, you know, our healthcare system, we are improving all the time, but we're still far off from where we ought to be. So for me, adding this compounds a problem that's already difficult. You see what I mean? We don't need any more difficulties in the management of our healthcare system because it's one area of our lives that really has to be improved and improved exponentially. You know, so I understand that the people had to furlough people home and now they've brought them back, and, you know, whatever it is, our healthcare, you know, no one can play ping pong with our healthcare. No one can play ping pong with our healthcare. So it has to be sorted out. I don't know whether these guys are the best people to do it. I don't know who, I don't actually care who is the best person to do it. But what I do know is that it's a system that's necessary for the delivery of healthcare and improvement of healthcare. And so the sooner this problem is resolved, the better.
I think the contention here has to do with why we allowed an entity to monopolize this.
Yes.
Must it be one entity or must it be multiple entities?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a case for having more than one entity.
Okay.
I mean, look, we are 33, 34 million people in this country. There's no reason why only one entity should manage all of this, you know. So I don't think it's wrong I don't even know whether that's what's happening, that someone is trying to say, look, it's enough, let's just look at it. And even if that were to be the case, there are always ways to do these things so that it's seamless. And patients don't become collateral damage in some kind of dispute or people's opinions or whatever. So I think there's always a case to, I don't believe in monopolies. Sometimes we have them because that's just the way the forces of the economy or whatever have worked, you know. But it doesn't also mean that monopolies are always bad. Yeah. You know, because if they are doing a great job and they are not overcharging government and they are not holding anyone to ransom, then why not? When their contract comes up for renewal, it can also be looked at.
But as Doc was just saying, and talking about monopoly, of course, monopoly generally is not a good thing, even in business. But in certain situations, you're likely to want to go for monopoly. Of course, why? Because these are health data. What would it look like if you have more than 2 or 3 entities managing health data, which is one of the concerns which you raised? And so I'm just thinking for health data, particularly, does it look feasible? Just on the face of it, where I'm not an expert, but just on the face of it, is it
something that multiple entities should look at?
Yeah, it's not multiple entities, but this is the age of technology. Right. Everything is possible, right? It's all about interconnectivity or interoperability, isn't it? And I'm not at all advocating one way or the other. All I'm saying is that it's not impossible to do it that way. And monopolies, I don't like them, but they are not necessarily a bad thing. Sure. Because sometimes, as long as it's not abused, there's nothing wrong with a monopoly as long as it's not abused. The reason why people go against it is the tendency for abuse. It doesn't mean that people who are in a monopoly are abusing situation. And often you'll find that there are regulators who try to put a lot of pressure on companies that they feel have monopolies. So somehow it kind of works out. As long as everyone is doing their job, it should be fine. And if one entity, as I said a few moments ago, is able to manage it in a way that works, if it's working, then it's working. And when the contract comes for renewal, then everyone sits around the table and then they can invite others to bid to see whether what they have is still a good thing or whether they should bring in someone whose system is more sophisticated, because benchmarking is a very important exercise.
Because today we are reading that patients in most government hospitals in the Ashanti region, for example, have expressed concern over the slow pace of record keeping due to the challenges with the Lightwave Health Information System. They say they lament that hospitals are reverting to the manual folder system, which causes significant delays in service delivery. Yes. Because if I have to, for example, you have to go to a certain counter or a certain room to search for some Okodio braces folder, and then when it comes, it goes wrong. But without it, I go anywhere, mention my name, and
they press a button, and everything is there, in front of the doctor.
So I think that no matter the challenge, government and the company will have to resolve it.
They have to resolve it. As I said, they can't play ping pong.
Yeah, this issue, I mean, is something that we should not even be contemplating. I mean, dragging it for a long time. I think both parties will have to sit on the table and address the issue as soon as practicable. Because I mean, I cannot just imagine us going back to that era of having to tracing your folder.
When books have already been printed and sent to hospitals, doesn't it show a certain line the government wants to do now? Because they've printed these record books to government hospitals.
Even the cost alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, the cost alone could have even...
Doesn't it show that maybe government says...
Necessary, yeah.
You see, I'm coming back to the issue about monopoly. The issue with monopoly has always been that it doesn't work to the welfare of the citizens. That's the government of this whole discussion about monopoly, competitive market, because the belief is that the profit-minded person will always put in charges in order to maximize profit, and that the welfare of the individual will always be jettisoned or will always be compromised at the expense of his personal or profit-making interest. Now, look at the service that they are providing. They are providing data management and storage for the government, health data management service solution provider. In that particular sector, well, one could say that you give many people the opportunity to manage government data, but that is not feasible. One may say, okay, divide the country into zones. The northern sector, a particular company is providing, or that is also going to be like 2 companies, right? All those mathematical formulas or when the permutation can come in. But the bottom line is, like she said, if the service provider is providing the service without any problem, the service provider has provided this service at least for the last 7 years without any challenge. What do you have? If it doesn't break, you don't fix it. Okay. So I just think that if they are having issue with the charges, then it's an opportunity for them to sit on the table and renegotiate the service fee. Otherwise, I think that we should not even contemplate going back to the era of where we have to keep our data manually, and then people will have to queue, and there have to be someone at the record unit to try to look for your data. Data management system in this country, especially manual data, is very terrible.
Maybe
very terrible.
Maybe the real issue here is between the time government is dealing with its impasse with a service provider. Between that time, what happens? Because we've shown that it looks like there was total lack of accessibility to the data. This is why we have gone to...
And that is wrong. That should
this is where the challenge is.
That should never happen.
I don't think even the debate really is whether it should be one person managing it or not. The problem is, if there is a challenge, who rises to the occasion? Yeah. What was the clause that was inside the agreement with them? Because now we've seen that it looks like government is just throwing its hands up, then we've gone back to printing papers and all of that. It is the in-between.
Yeah, because look, one of my areas of expertise is privacy and data protection. There should have been very clear provisions that data does not belong to the service provider.
Yeah.
I mean, that data, it should have been explicit in the agreement that that data does not belong to the service provider. You understand? So you cannot hold government ransom and Ghanaians ransom because you are controlling the data.
But if I do it for payment...
The problem is that the problem is not the data. The problem is the system.
Service delivery, right?
The system. Before you can access the data, there must be a system in place.
But there should have been, the agreement should have made alternative. There's always backup in place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. So if I'm controlling the system, the platform, which I used to provide the service, and I'm closing down my platform because you are not paying me, it is difficult for you to access the data.
But there should be clear. And then maybe it's a contractual problem.
I get it. But you see, I'm controlling the system. The software is provided by me. I pay for the software. We have similar problems.
Now, what about the cloud?
So let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Do a digression. Recently, we had issue with Telecel, AT, and then Telecel, AT-Tigo. They are roaming on towers provided by American Towers Company.
Yes.
You get it. Now, if American Tower Company decide to shut down their towers from you, your customers are going to be affected. You get the point. So that is a similar issue that is affecting the health data management service provision.
But that is a little bit different. Yeah. I would submit that that's a bit different from the situation we are facing. That's a purely commercial situation. This is about sensitive personal data, which is a whole different category by itself. And so the treatment of that is completely different from treating regular data. And in this telecell situation, there's not even basic personal data in there. So what I'm saying is that when you are putting together this kind of thing and you are giving someone a monopoly over it, then you have to make sure, the government of the day at the time who put this thing together should have made sure that this situation where the provider is holding us to ransom should never happen.
But they are not holding us to ransom. They are not. I mean, we are getting it wrong. They are getting it. They are not holding us to ransom.
They are not providing the service.
The reason why
I will not provide my service.
Let me explain further. The reason why I'm using that expression is because the data is with them. They are storing it somewhere. Government cannot access it, and government is now being forced to do paper data, right? All I'm saying is that at the time of drafting the agreement, clear provision should have been in there to make sure that in this scenario, in this eventuality, because it's an eventuality that can be envisaged, especially in a monopoly situation, that the access to the actual data, people's personal information, should not be restricted. And these days, nobody stores anything. Everything is in the cloud. Most things are in the cloud. So there should have been provisions for that. There's always backup for data. It doesn't mean that, if they want to shut down their system, they shut down their system. But also information that they've collected for which they've been paid or half paid or about to be paid or whatever, that one, they cannot hold people to ransom. And that's why I'm using those words.
So the point is that we are not privy to the fact that the information are denied from the government. In all this discussion,
but why are they
in this discussion, there is no information as to the fact that government has gone to this company and said that, okay, give us the information you have so gathered. They will give it to you because at that moment, it's that snapshot of data they have. They will give it to you. There shouldn't be any restriction whatsoever about that. But now, the problem is that patients go to the hospital and then someone has to use the system to retrieve their information. That system is what has been shut down.
Yeah.
So it's not an issue of data government or they are restricting government from accessing data of people. It's a system which you use to access the data of the people that has been shut down. And they have every right, if government is not paying them, to do that. So that's why I'm saying that we should have to look at how do we make them to sit on the table. If they feel that the charges they have to
sit on. I mean, that's what that one.
Let's talk about.
But the Light 12 themselves came out to say that they will continue to prioritize patients and healthcare workers despite unpaid arrears, and that their system will keep running.
So the system is running.
That's the promise they gave us.
I can't see how Lightwave would release a statement saying that they will not prioritize.
No, but they said despite the unpaid, they will keep the system running. And they even promised to keep workers over the weekend to ensure health.
Yeah, I understand they brought workers that they were sitting at home.
So really, what is?
So that means they are working to resolve
someone should let us know what really is.
So that means they are working to resolve the problem.
That's why when I started my submission, I said there are so many unanswered questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
We need more
I agree.
Maybe we talk about the Defense Ministry. And of course, it will remind us of our sad story that happened in August about the helicopter crash when our Defense Minister sadly lost his life. But let's talk about an appointment because, Reverend, could you?
No, I was looking at your beautiful hair and I thought we could do the hair first before we go to the Ministry for Defense. Your hair is quite important, so, but it's fine. Let's go to
We've come up with the Defense Ministry. Shall we stay with it? Okay.
Sure.
So, Reverend Tim Fojo has just also drawn the country's attention to the fact that the President or the government has not appointed a new Defense Minister. One of the questions I want to put to you, my guest this morning, is why does it always look very difficult or manual to lift a deputy minister to the role of a substantive minister? And this will be a case study where, because we have the finance minister now acting as the defense minister, when we already had a deputy defense minister. What are the nuances? You are a member of parliament. Maybe you hear things on the corridors of power. Why is it difficult?
Well, so one is because it's constitutional. The Minister of State is not the same as the Deputy Minister of State. And you are appointing the Deputy Minister to assist the Minister. So the Minister of State perform certain functions. Those functions are exclusively his or her to perform. They may delegate some functions to be performed by the deputy minister. But in the scheme of things, you cannot play the role of a minister if you're a deputy minister. So you see that more often, you see a minister traveling or a certain minister is indisposed, the president will appoint a caretaker minister. Now, the simple things that the president, like in this particular case, should have just appointed the deputy minister or any other person to assume, so that once the deputy minister becomes the minister, he or she can perform the function of the minister. So it is that whole arrangement. I even advocated during this recent constitutional review process that, look, there's no need appointing a deputy minister when the deputy minister cannot function as a minister in the absence of the substantive minister. You better let it be the minister and then probably the special assistant or probably the chief directors of the ministries. Because how will it look like if a minister of state has traveled, I'm a deputy minister and I cannot do anything? Virtually, they have to bring a different minister. And there's also another thing. Only cabinet ministers will act for cabinet minister. For instance,
but why can't you also treat the constitution to say when the minister is indisposed, the deputy becomes automatically?
No, that cannot happen because you are basically clipping the wings of the president, his powers to appoint and to disappoint. Okay, if you make it that automatic, it's going to be very chaotic. How will we look if I even conspire to kill my minister? You get it? It is not going to augur well. I mean, when you are contemplating certain things, you don't make...
But we just say act until the president appoints.
No. So if you say act until the president appoints, basically the president will mean I'm also just a step away from being the minister.
Okay.
And you see, I also understand the intention behind the fact that you make deputy ministers to be too subservient to the minister because they don't want it to be, power play and shoulder robbing each other and what have you. So it is a whole constitutional issue. But I also think that a deputy minister should have the capacity of being a minister, such that when there's such a situation, the president can easily say, let me appoint the person to be the minister. Or he quickly gets a replacement, because it doesn't look well when your government is ongoing and about 3 months, 4 months. It happened in June, right? In August.
Yeah.
Almost 3 months down the line, you are still struggling to get a minister to replace it. And that is the whole issue about revenue. And I remember when the president was making his appointment, I made a comment which was misconstrued. I said that if the president is serious about this country, the first appointment he will make is the Minister for National Security. People will say, oh, what do does he? He doesn't need national security. They say national security coordinator, what have you. I was very firm and emphatic on my position that the first and foremost appointment you need to make as a president is the minister responsible for national security. I mean, I was vindicated later on when the president realized that because the National Security Act requires that, he appointed Honorable Muntaka Mohammed as the minister responsible for national security in addition to the interior. Okay, so now they have added him the minister responsible for who other minister passed on, Limuna, right? No, it was the national security coordinator. Defense was also part of environment. He's the caretaker minister for environment now, right?
The environment.
The lands minister is
land minister. Sorry, so lands minister. So this is the arrangement, and that's the difficulty, though. The reason why government finds it difficult to. I think the constitutional review process should take into consideration this fact that the Minister of State the deputy minister should have the capacity to act as a minister in the absence of the minister. Yeah. Otherwise, it will not make sense for me that my boss is not around. I know deputy CEOs. Of course, could be about that could amount to trivializing the issue if I are limited to it, because deputy CEOs are not same as ministers. But I know deputy CEOs. They act in the absence of the CEOs. So if you take the minister as a corporate body, you must as well think that maybe in the absence of the minister, the deputy minister should be able to act. But there's a problem. The delay raised by Honorable Iddrisu is also important. Why is the president delaying on this matter? I mean, is it that, especially there are even people in the government looking for the job to do? You get it? I mean, there are people there are a lot of people who are still disappointed because they didn't get an appointment. It's normal. It's not just peculiar to this government. It's normal that in any government form, after us, people will be disappointed. So this is an opportunity for you to fill that particular void. Government business is moving on smoothly. Then you are also getting to address the concerns of the people who help you win power. And there's no reason whatsoever the president that this unnecessary delay could only amount to indecision. The president is afraid, or he's not sure of who to give it to. Maybe among the many people wanting or vying for it or lobbying for it is still unsure or not certain as to which of them or amongst the laws should I give it to. And that is clearly a factor of the president being indecisive in this particular matter, in the matter of the appointment of replacement for the demised ministers of state. Or the president is clear, but there is some power play somewhere. Either some party bigwigs are trying to torpedo the process or trying to determine who they want to fill the vacancy, and the interest of keeping the harmony of the party and not be seen that they are fighting amongst them, the president can be a bit hesitant in trying to get the replacement for that. But in whatever the president does, the cardinal interest should be the interest of the good people of Ghana, because that is the oath you swore to protect the interest of the people of Ghana, not the interest of the NDC or any person or any power player anywhere. So I think that whatever the impediments are, the president would have to, in the matter Parliament has resumed. I mean, if he brings it, Parliament will approve it the next moment after we are sure that the Minister of State so appointed meets the requisite qualification. So I agree with Honorable Iddrisu that the president delay, it doesn't send a good signal of his control, doesn't send a good signal of his readiness, it doesn't send a good signal of his capacity to take decisions on its own matters.
Okay, all right.
Maybe Vicky.
Yeah.
Maybe you never know. He believes that the apparatus, as we have it already, is enough. So he doesn't think
I would be surprised if it's left vacant for the rest of the president's tenure. It is one of the key ministries of state, a very key one. And increasingly so, even more so, I should say, in this day and age of all sorts of defense and security issues. So I would like to think that it's not a vacancy that will be left like that for any much longer than we already have. I mean, look, a defense minister, it's a that position is a position that any president has to think about very, very carefully.
Yes.
You know, for all sorts of reasons. I mean, of course, they think about all their appointments very critically, but this one in particular has its own peculiarities. That's things like national security and all of that. So I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure any president is concerned about these things, and I'm sure the president is aware of all the security and defense issues going on all over around us and elsewhere. So maybe we should now, Parliament has resumed, and let's just be a little bit more patient. But I do agree that it needs to be filled as soon as possible. Yeah. Sooner rather than later.
The president is also looking at who do I put there.
Yes, it's a very critical position.
I can really trust. Yeah. You remember President Kufuor left his brother there?
Yes, throughout.
Yeah, President Kufuor came, also left one of his young people. What was his name? How can I forget? Nitiu. For 8 years. Never changed him. So I think the defense ministry says that you're looking at who can I live my life to, that I know that I can sleep.
I think it's in the president's interest to then.
The president can give it to Lordina Mahama.
As a defense minister,
yes. I mean,
the first lady.
Why can it not happen? The first lady is not appointed.
I've never seen it
not
before.
Talk about it, right? But you just mentioned that somebody appointed a brother.
Oh yes.
That's
So
that's different from your wife.
Yeah, I think the best person you can talk about maybe could be Joyce Bawa Mukhtar.
Because I mean, you know, your spouse has your back anyway.
Yeah. Would that be more tightly defended?
Yeah, that would be a more.
That's a different kind of role. And it's a very important and critical role.
Okay.
I hear people speak fondly about Dr. Adokufo and what he did at the Defense Ministry.
Yeah, so they actually called him Defense. Yeah. People just drop his name and just call him Defense.
But I mean, we must as well also know that whilst you build systems, and Ghana has also gone beyond the era of course, you can't say never, we never say never, but Ghana has developed systems with a lot of constitutional lawyers, a lot of people, defenders of the Constitution, everywhere, such that if someone wants to put aside or overthrow the Constitution in the name of coup d'etat, people would fiercely resist that. So the temperament of the country, again, is helpful, that it should aid the president in taking the decision, not to be so much worried that, I cannot trust someone. As a matter of fact, you have to trust someone. And trusting someone, in the meantime, you have trusted the minister responsible for finance to be responsible for defense. Yeah. So there's someone always there to trust. And I think that the president has not run out of people, trustees.
But it won't be bad to have a female minister, Joyce Bawa Mukhtar.
I mean, Joyce. Okay, well, let's not discuss that.
Because he just brought his wife in I was just, Okay, let's move to one.
My sister would think that I don't want her to be the Minister of State. But
Joyce Mokhtari? Joyce, you mean your sister?
She can, I mean, that's my sister, not family. Yeah. My direct family. But I mean that, you see, let's not discuss Joyce.
Okay,
she can be a Minister of State.
It's fine.
She can be a Minister of State. She's very
but she can be a solid Minister of Defense.
But the Minister of Defense, I have...
Oh, no, Joyce can be. She can do it. First female Minister of Defense. Sweet.
Well, I think she can, though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about hair.
Your beautiful hair.
Thank you.
And that of lawyers.
This one is hired. This one, I hired it for a minute. It will go off by the end of the day.
Okay.
But let's talk about that young lady who you have seen on social media tearing up, ripping a lot of people's heart apart because they were cutting her hair. She had to go to school. Here's what the minister had to say, and I like to think it is on the backdrop of this. Here's what he had to say.
There is an ongoing debate in social media about haircuts and size and length of hair in secondary schools. We will not tolerate it today, we will not tolerate it tomorrow, and so long as we are molding character. If we give in to hair today, tomorrow it will be shoes, and the next day it will be the way they dress. Therefore, as part of our disciplinary measures, headmasters and GES, you are accordingly empowered to take full control of how students behave on your campuses. So anybody who thinks that your child will walk into any institution of learning as if that child, forgive my words, was to attend a beauty contest, the school environment is not for that purpose and not cut for that purpose, and would not tolerate that as an institution.
I'm going to defer this to Kojo because I totally will be biased on this one. Kojo,
all right. Let me start with you, lawyer, because one, you are a female, and you tell me a personal story. Must we still keep on to this, or you also belong to the people who think that, well, it's time for us to take a different look at this particular policy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, for me, it's not the most important thing. What I will say, though, is that if I wouldn't advocate for kids like putting relaxers in their hair or doing weaves and things like that. But if it's their natural hair and they are braiding it, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I was saying to you that when I was little, before all this haircut thing started, we used to, you know, in school, I was in Wesley Girls, we used to just braid each other's hair. You know, you braid my hair, I'll braid your hair. Because it was a girls' school, it was easy to do so, and we all learned how to braid hair. And then the rule came in. And I remember we were told that we shouldn't come to school the following term unless we literally had Sakura hair. And so I had very long hair. And they just kind of, literally, I had it in braids, and they just went right to the bottom of the braid and chop, 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 chop. And I looked at my face and I cried buckets, you know, because I was just a little kid. You know, so, I mean, I don't really, I do agree that it shouldn't be outrageous hairstyles. It shouldn't be anything relaxed or weave-ons or any of those things that distract you from why you're in school to learn. You know, but if someone naturally has long hair or just wants to braid their hair, as long as it's not funny hair braids and things, I really think we should leave the kids alone. That's my personal view, having experienced the trauma of my hair being at Sakura.
So that
I have my personal
so that there should be agreed hairstyles that the ladies
exactly.
have.
They should have very
braided.
Strict, yes, okay. Very, very strict, you know, rules around your hair. If you're not going to cut it, you know, the hairstyle that we all know little kids to now have in schools, then you need to have it braided a certain way. It has to be within very strict parameters. No chemicals, no weave-ons, nothing, no wigs, nothing like that. Just your own hair and braided neatly. You know, I think that's okay.
But lawyer, when I know I'm taking my kid to a school that has a certain guidelines on hairs, for example, why would I, having applied to the school, not allow my kid to play by the rules, but let her go to school with the hair down like
then
that?
The child should be sent right back home, because it's not a fashion parade. I mean, look, you're in school to learn, and you shouldn't be confused about that. You're there to earn an education. And part of doing that is also conforming, you know, understanding how to, respecting authority. You know, these are all things that shape us, shape our character as we grow. And we become, hopefully, good citizens. You know, so if the school is saying this is what we do here in school A, and you have chosen, they didn't force you to apply to the school. You have chosen to come, or maybe a computer system has put you there or whatever. You have to just look at the rules and conform. Unless you have a very good medical reason or whatever not to conform, you have to conform. Otherwise, it will descend into chaos. You know.
Doc, let me bring you in here. On social media, a lot of people have taken on the Minister of Education, for example, for saying that we'll stay by the rules. And my question is, before I agreed to maybe work at multimedia, I knew that at multimedia, you have to do ABC. Why do I now come in, and when I'm forced to play by the rules, then I criticize my manager?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, the Honorable Minister for Education is a very diligent man. He's very thoughtful of his actions. And I'm sure he wouldn't have made this statement if he had not thought about the implication of that statement and the public debate that it will generate. I know Haruna Iddrisu is a very intelligent man as well, and he's been through it all. The issue of discipline, the issue of uniformity, the issue of providing an environment where every single person can fit in the educational system is at the center of our educational reforms. Now, come to think of it, once you relax rules, that you mingle rich and poor children, people have the capacity to do the most expensive hairstyles, no matter how simple it is. I don't have the capacity to do that. I am in the same school with such a person. Psychologically, it doesn't augur well for even other children who are coming from, less privileged backgrounds. Do you know that even what students wear puts psychological pressure on other students? You don't know that. I have been in schools. I have been to secondary. I have been in fact, I was in the University for Devon State. I walked. Whenever I saw my colleagues on motorbike, it didn't appear well to me. It sends questions, why am I asked to walk while other people are on the motorbike going to school?
I didn't care.
You didn't care. You will not care because
Thank God for your life.
you didn't care because you have come to accept your fate. You understand? There are some people,
what time I'll make it better.
No, that is the point. You, not that you didn't care, you came to accept your fate. That, look, I didn't have. Everyone at a point will accept that. And you are working towards becoming like them. Okay? But I'm just saying that you don't create an environment where differences are going. Why do we care about social inequality? Because it is supposed to address a certain, you are living as a society. You have to be each other keepers. So that is one part of it. Now, let's talk about, he's a lawyer. Even lawyers, to go to Mankola, they require that you trim your hair. In fact, basically, you have to...
You mean the beard?
The beard.
Not the hair.
Beard. Even the hair, you have to put it in a particular...
For men.
Yeah, for men. You don't leave it at will. They don't leave it in a manner that you allow everyone to do what... Even though they are adults. As a matter of fact, they are more... An average age will be more than 18 years.
The law school.
In the law school, 20. It will be more than 20 years. The minimum will be more than 20 years. So, you see, I agree that we shouldn't make the schools like we are still in the 18th century. We are still not adapting to situations and that people freedom and expression. But we must also not let the school become a place for fashion show.
Yeah, but dog, like lawyer said, can we based on, say, we're starting from the Tyrone case, now we have this. Yeah. Can we, like lawyer said, have a certain how do you call it?
That's the point I'm coming. A certain standard.
Yes, good. To say that natural, braided. Don't add relaxers.
Look. I agree that natural hair, they are not even telling them to put it, they are asking them to put natural hair, but they are saying that they keep it in a certain manner.
Cut it.
You understand? Put it in a certain manner. And the manner you have to put it is that cut it to size. Basically, that's what they are saying. They are not saying you shouldn't keep your natural hair, but they are saying that you cannot keep your natural hair so long that how do you put it?
It's on your
you braid
you make it funny.
It has braid.
So should we braid it? Should we have a principle like those days when they were in school? Braid the hair.
Look, that thing
so
is psychologically what they did to her, they did to me back then.
Psychologically not good.
It now. It's psychologically
okay, something like a braid it. Is it the case that some people are not even okay with braiding their hair? Why? Because good. Why? Because
don't want to braid,
it gives them, that's what I'm saying, that when you make it look like okay, it's good to give them options. at least 2 options or 3 options is better than 1 option. Because at least many people will get to fit in. To that extent, I agree with the suggestion that let's have at least a very simple, decent, and maybe fashionable hairstyle so that people can braid their hair. If they don't want to lose their hair, they can braid it and probably whatever. But I'm just saying that we should not be so much liberal and so much freedom-centered that we are interested in unfettered freedom for students, that we create a problem. We create a problem in the senior high school, and that's why Haruna Iddrisu was saying that today it is hair, tomorrow it will be shoe, tomorrow next it could be something else. So because of that, I understand that's why the lawyers are a bit conservative, because they don't. Once you give someone one freedom, he's looking for another freedom, and the next generation will look for another freedom different from the freedom where we are experiencing. So why don't you keep? I'm in school. Okay. I'm going to be there for 4 years. Why can't you conform with the rules that are applicable in that particular situation? You understand? But I'll conclude on this point. There's no correlation whatsoever between person hair and academic performance. It's well established. If there's anything that we should learn,
Tyrone.
My guy case is one case we can all learn from. There's no correlation whatsoever. But you just want people to be uniform. Okay. You want people to be you have to set standard. You have to want people like they are all on the same level learning and to acquire certain skill. To that extent, you need those standards, you need those particular rules to guide them. Okay.
The fact, though, is that women are not men, right? Yeah. We are not men. So we have hair like that. So we have hair. But I do accept that it has to be managed. Because you are in school, you are not there to do any fashion parade. So I agree with the minister that, sense must prevail. Yeah. But we are women. We don't want men's hairstyles, but at the same time, we can't have wild hairstyles.
But someone says that when it comes to the braid, when you can't wear a braid for 4 months.
No, you can't. But that's why, as I said in school, before this rule came, we used to braid each other.
Were you washing it before?
Yes, you wash your hair every week. You have to wash your hair every week. And then your friend will braid it for you and you will braid hairs.
This generation.
So we all became very good at it.
This generation don't know that. They all go to the salon. So if you don't do that,
then you have to cut your hair. That's the point I'm making. Because you can't also have it long and unkempt.
So we need to give them options. Whether you cut it or you braid it.
We need to give them options within, a certain parameter.
Okay.
Limited. All right.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on this review. Time is up already. It came so quickly and soon. We're joined by Dr. Kabiru Mahama, MP for Wale, and as well Victoria Bright. She's a lawyer, corporate lawyer, and an entrepreneur. Thank you for joining us on the news review today. But thank you as well for staying. That's more on the show.